What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the DFS Dose YouTube channel. I'm Ben Hauver, joined as I always am by Joey Carrion. And today we're talking about Cam Newton. If you like what you see today, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Let me just toss it right to you, Joey. I mean, you've got the Patriots bed sheets in the background. You've
Right
been
there.
calling for this move. You thought it was a good signing. And I think that's kind of contradictory to like the general feeling of New England fans right now. I don't think that, the people of New England were excited that the Patriots decided to bring back Cam Newton on a 1-year, $5 million guaranteed dollar deal. There's some incentives in there, so he could make more if he has a big season. What are your thoughts on Cam Newton back to the Patriots in 2021?
Yeah, so like you mentioned, I'm kind of away from the consensus of it being a bad signing. I actually think it was their best option at quarterback going into 2021. Obviously, they have the number 15 overall pick in the draft, and they're most likely going to either draft a quarterback at that pick or trade up for a quarterback. But I don't think any of the quarterbacks that they'll take, let's say they trade up to number 9, or if they stay at 15, I don't think a quarterback that they'll take there would be as good as Cam Newton in 2021 for the Patriots. So didn't mind the re-signing of Cam Newton. $5 million is very cheap for a player of Cam Newton's caliber. And I just overall think it is the best option for the Patriots for this year, especially if we can get him some weapons. And I think that is the biggest thing is the 2020 season for Cam Newton. I think that was his floor. He was surrounded by the worst group of skill position players in the NFL: Jacoby Myers, Damiere Byrd, Ryan Izzo, Matt LaCosse. Julian Edelman was hurt. Sony Michel started the season, and then he played like 8 games or 9 games, and then they went to Damian Harris. They were the second heaviest rushing team in the NFL behind the Ravens. So I think the upside is there for Cam Newton in 2021, especially if the Patriots can make a couple splash free agent signings this week. So I'll be expecting them to sign at least one wide receiver and one tight end to help Cam Newton in 2021.
I mean, they definitely need to, because the weapons were a serious concern. And that's kind of been something that's haunted Cam Newton for the duration of his career. We were talking about it before we hit record, Torrey Smith, Ted Ginn Jr., the tail end of Steve Smith's career. I mean, he has never really had elite wide receivers. Kelvin Benjamin for a stretch. And you say that last year was his floor. Well, it was a pretty low floor, even in terms of Cam Newton. Fewest amount of completions he's had in a season that he's played more than 2 games in his entire 10-year career. Cam's been in the NFL since 2011. He has 1 season with over 4,000 passing yards. It was his rookie year. This man had 8 passing touchdowns and 10 interceptions. Like, as a passer, he was not good last year. And yeah, you can definitely attribute that to the weapons. Do you think that there's enough left in the tank for Cam that if they improve the weapons, he too will improve? Or is he just kind of who he is at this point?
Yeah, so that's an interesting question, because my thoughts on Cam Newton as a player, and I've thought this throughout his career, is that he's been an average passer in the NFL, and he gets his upside from his ability to run the ball. And he has like the most rushing touchdowns for a quarterback in the last 15 years in the NFL. He has like 76 rushing touchdowns since he's came into the league. So that's where his upside is in real life and in fantasy. And as a passer, yeah, he's not an elite passer by any stretch. But then again, like you mentioned, he hasn't had talent in terms of the skill position players for the majority of his career. I know he got a year or 2 out of DJ Moore, Christian McCaffrey, had Steve Smith, but other than that, he was surrounded by, Ted Ginn, Kelvin Benjamin, and some of the other guys you said. So I can't really dock him too much, but he is average in terms of that. But just for his 2021 outlook for the Patriots, I expect them, like I said, to go out and sign a couple of pass catchers, presumably 1 wide receiver and 1 tight end. And as a passer, I think he improves on his stats from 2020. I don't think he's going to throw for 8 touchdowns if he plays another full season. He played 15 games in 2020, missed the 1 game due to COVID. And I think that him getting COVID also affected his 2020 season. Like he kind of, it's tough to say, but like he kind of got like the the wrong side of the stick with 2020. Like with everything that happened, he signed 3 months into free agency, so he got a late start on that. He ended up getting COVID. Obviously, there was no OTAs, no offseason, essentially, no time to prepare. And then obviously it's well documented how complex the Patriots offense is to learn. So just combine all of that with the fact of the Patriots not being talented on offense. I think it was a doomed 2020 for Cam Newton off the rip. So I'm expecting a significant jump in 2021 just for all the reasons that we've talked about. And for fantasy, he has a lot of fantasy upside, I think, as well.
Yeah, yeah. Transitioning strictly to fantasy, I think Cam Newton is one of the best picks you can make right now in best ball, because say he doesn't improve at all. Say he's just, the same sort of stats that he had last year. He's getting it done on the ground, not so much through the air. I mean, he was 17th in fantasy points per game last year. Right now he's going as the quarterback 37 on drafters with an ADP over 200. He's not getting drafted in every league. And if he is, it's with a final round pick. Because of what he did on the ground. And, we talked about the passing stats, but in terms of rushing, he had a career high in rush attempts per game. He was averaging 9.1 attempts per game. He had almost 600 yards on the ground and 12 touchdowns, the most he's had since his rookie year. And that was a clear part of the Patriots offensive game plan, was to use Cam Newton in scoring position as a rusher. I mean, it was clear as day. They did it damn near every drive that they got into scoring position. So at QB 37, a legit QB4 with that kind of rushing upside that he's done, displayed consistently throughout his career, I love taking Cam Newton as my QB3 in a league, with a final round pick. I think the upside is absolutely there, especially for, a weekly basis where you could get 2 touchdowns in a given week.
Yeah, I definitely agree. He's a stone value right now. Obviously, his ADP is going to rise after the announcement of this signing. So I expect him to go somewhere between like the QB 22 to QB 26 range, which would still put him in like the quarterback 3 tier. And even then, I think he's a good pick. He had 7 games with 45 or more rushing yards. And then if you just look at it, that's 7 games with 4.5 points on the ground, like strictly on the ground, not even with his passing. And then combine that with the fact that he did score 12 rushing touchdowns, had a couple games where he scored 2 rushing touchdowns as well. Like, I think his upside on the ground is crazy. That's where his ceiling comes from, is from his rushing upside, obviously. And then combine that with the fact that the Patriots should improve on offense with some free agent signings. Let's say that, they go out and sign Kenny Galladay and Hunter Henry. Like, obviously he's going to improve as a passer. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but in theory, if that does happen, his upside as a passer increases as well. And that makes Cam Newton a stone value in fantasy football right now. So
unless they sign Marvin Jones and Kyle Rudolph.
Nah, no shot. No
shot. Good on that?
No. You could, the Patriots, they're staying away from them. There's no way they come to New England.
Hopefully. All right. I mean, I think that we hit on it all. I think we're both on the side of right now, if you're in these early best ball drafts, you should be going after Cam. Some of the guys that are getting drafted ahead of him are just mind blowing to me. Like Drew Brees is getting drafted ahead of him. This man, Drew Brees, is going to be commentating for NBC next year. What are we doing, people?
Yeah,
like, draft Cam Newton,
understand
please.
that.
That's funny to me. That's funny. But yeah, man, that's what I've got. If you guys are interested in some of our takes on the free agents, we did a full podcast, and you can find the links to that in the description. We talked about all the free agents, some of the best and worst landing spots, guys that were bullish on it, their current ADPs, etc. Did a full podcast on that, and we're going to be doing a ton of content on TikTok, the podcast, YouTube this week, covering where these guys go and how it impacts the fantasy landscape. So make sure you guys are subscribed on all platforms: Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube. Anything I'm missing here? Join the Discord. What else do we got?
Nope, I'm pretty sure that's it. Just make sure you're subscribed to the channel right down below.
Absolutely. Do it. Hit that sub. We'll talk to you guys soon.